you don't have a book until you have a book. So what I mean by that is write without letting your thinking brain interfere too much with what you're writing, without letting your perfectionist side get in the way.
Welcome to Women's Thrive Podcast. This is where you'll get to hear incredible stories of female entrepreneurs, business owners, women from all walks of life. Myself, Raimonda Jan, and my co-host Abigail will be interviewing incredible women, hearing inspiring stories of women from all around the world. I have no doubt that you will find something that will be life-changing for you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and join us for our future episodes. Hello and welcome to today's podcast with me, your host, Raimonda Jan. I'm so excited to have you here for another amazing interview with one of our speakers. Today, we're talking about from blank page to published author. And if you have always wanted to become a published author, create your own book, and just really see your work in print, this is going to be an episode for you. So I'm really excited to bring my lovely guest today, joining us from all the way from Gold Coast, Australia. Hi, Gail. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Raimonda. How are you?
I am great. I'm looking forward to this conversation today. This is one of my favorite topics, and I'm passionate about it because I think we all have a story to tell, and books are such a wonderful way to communicate our stories in a meaningful and profound way. So my guest today is Gail Tagarro, who is the book writing coach, and she's a published author of fiction and nonfiction books. She's an accredited editor and a former journalist with Master of Arts in English and Spanish. So Gail has been coaching and supporting writers and aspiring writers since early 2000s. Her signature book coaching program, the Book Writing Academy, supports aspiring writers to write and complete polished, publishing-ready fiction and non-fiction books to communicate their knowledge and their story. So Gail, welcome. So excited to have you here today on this podcast.
Thank you so much.
Tell me a little bit more about how you even got started in book coaching and writing. This is such an exciting job that you have that I wish I had.
Yes, I feel very lucky, very privileged. I love what I do. I started back in 2005, working as a professional editor of all kinds of books, fiction and nonfiction, just like I work with now. And prior to that, I had a career as a documentation specialist in the IT corporate area for about 18 years. So I go way back in the professional writing space. But after 15 years working as a professional editor, I realized that there was a gap in the services that writers needed. And that gap came before they started writing their books. And it was in actually coaching and teaching writers the skills and strategies that they needed to write books. And then that evolved into working with clients and supporting them from go to woe, so helping them write and finish their books to publication ready stage. That's how I started as a book writing coach. It's led into the main program that I run, which is a 6-month program called the Book Writing Academy. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Amazing. And another stages, I think, becoming a published author, it starts with a dream. It starts with a dream. Wow, I want to write a book. What was your dream when you started this coaching program and you started helping others? What is the passion and the drive behind what you do? What is your ultimate vision for the authors that you work with?
To see them achieve their passion, their goal. But it's a huge thing to write a book. And some people think you just start writing and it happens and you end up with a published book. And in some cases, that happens. Like a lot of people can write their own books. They don't need a writing coach. I would argue that they would need a professional editor, but they don't necessarily need a writing coach. But there's a lot of people who lack the confidence a lot of people who have a lack of self-belief, people who need the accountability of a writing coach. And yeah, they just need that support along the way to keep them going, to keep them motivated. And so it's really wonderful to see people who've started out with no confidence in themselves, a real lack of self-belief, the old imposter syndrome, to see them overcome all those obstacles and to see them gaining the skills and the knowledge that they need to write that book, which has been their dream. For some people that I work with, they've been trying to write their book for 20 years or longer. And to actually get to the point where over 6 months they have a 90,000 word novel or a 60,000 word self-help book, it's just beyond belief, their happiness and their joy at completing that big task.
It's a really grand achievement. I know this because we, Women Thrive, we published 4 books now, and it is a grand achievement. And the best moment is when we see our authors holding the physical copy of their books and they realize that their work, their stories, their purpose is now written in a book and now it's going to serve others. And say your book will walk so many more miles than your feet could ever walk because it's going out into the world to reach a whole different audience. And that's powerful. That's really a powerful way to share your message.
Yes, it is. It is powerful. Yeah. I'm working with a writer at the moment. She'd struggled for maybe 10 years with a feeling of isolation and having no professional feedback on her nonfiction story, which is about her journey along the road of cancer. But then she realized that her cancer was as a result of unresolved childhood trauma. So it's a really deep message in her book. And she'd tried for 10 years to write her story and she'd never made it past her first chapter. And then in our very first session, she said, wow, I've got further with my book in 1 hour than I have in 10 years. And it's just so important to see those books come out into the world because it's not only helping those writers, in this case, heal, but it's also showing other people who may be experiencing something similar that they can heal and that they can thrive after something like that.
Absolutely. And it's powerful, as you say, it is really powerful for the writers because it is healing. And I know from experience how hard it is to write your personal story, especially something as personal and deep and traumatic as going through cancer, but also going through trauma. You certainly, I believe, need the guidance and support because there's so many intricacies, so much work that needs to go into it. I personally know I've started 2 books, but we haven't got to the publishing part yet because life gets in the way. Life gets in the way. And as you say, there is no accountability for someone to keep you on track. And that's where the magic of book coach or book mentor or someone that will help you get to the other side, that is the real magic, right?
Yes, it's true that accountability is one of the big things that stops potential writers or aspiring writers actually achieve their goal, along with not knowing how to start, not having a structure for their book. So many writers, aspiring writers, just don't know where to start. And so giving them those tools helps them actually get started, and then having the accountability keeps them going, having the constant encouragement and feedback on their writing as well. So, because some people, it depends, there's sort of 2 different types of people. The sort of person who is too scared for anybody else to read what they've written because there's that huge fear and it's a very vulnerable thing to share your work. And then other people almost overshare in forums and so on, and they may receive a lot of feedback, but it's all amateur feedback and it ends up really confusing people rather than helping them. So to have that professional feedback, that professional reviewing and so on along the journey of writing their book. It's extremely helpful.
Mm.
The difference between success or not.
So you talked a little bit about your signature method, the academy, the book writing academy that you have. What are some of the milestones or components of the process that people get into when they work with you, Gail?
The very first one is actually getting them set up with a structure and a framework for their book. It's quite psychological. If you're given a template and it looks like a book and it's got your title and it's got your name on the front, on the cover, you immediately take ownership of that. And it feels like you're really writing a book. It's not like just having a scrap of paper on the desk in front of you or a plain old blank screen. So that's the very first thing that we do to get a writer set up with their own customized template and be able to actually start so that they can go away from the first session and start writing. And then milestones along the way, I always celebrate when a writer achieves, the first 10,000 words and then the next 10,000 words and so on. And to acknowledge that they're really making progress, that they're really getting there. The program's really tailored to individuals because I work with writers who are writing fiction, who are writing nonfiction. It might be a novel, it could be a business book, it could be a travel book or a cookbook or a children's book. There's so many self-help books, so there's so many different types of stories that I'm really tailoring the program to the individual people as well.
That's amazing. Well, I think it's important when you're working with a mentor or a coach to have that personal eye on what you're writing, because what I don't like is when you go into working with someone and they have that cookie cutter approach and, hey, these are the milestones that we're going to go on. And the truth is, there are certain needs that you have. And that's what I love that you provide for your clients, a really tailored, an amazing approach to suit what they need. And that's what I think sets you apart as a book mentor.
You've hit the nail on the head, Ray. Yes, I definitely don't have a cookie cutter approach. It's very much tailored to what the individual writers need. Obviously, there's aspects of writing and strategies and techniques and so on that are common to all types of writing. And I also run a group session once a week where everyone can come along, and it's a community of writers because writing can be very isolating. And this way they get to meet one another. We get to have a chat in an informal situation. They get to ask questions. They get to talk to other writers. And it's always good bouncing ideas off one another as well. So, yeah, that's really a nice aspect of it too.
How do people get more information about that if people wanted to come on in and give it a try?
The weekly sessions are really for my clients, but if somebody wanted to have a little bit of a taster, I'd be really happy to welcome them in so that they can see for themselves what it's like.
We certainly are going to make sure that our audience know how to get in touch with you. What is your website address if people wanted to just get to know a little bit more about what you do, Gail?
Sure. So the website address is bookwritingcoach.com.au, and there's a free download on the homepage where they can actually download that elusive getting started piece on their story. So it's the structure, that part of the puzzle. It's called Scaffolding for Scribes, and they'll see it as soon as they go onto the homepage. It's the first thing there.
Amazing. And at what stage do you think people should be getting in touch with you once they have started writing, once they start thinking about writing? Maybe they already wrote half of their book and they feel a little bit stuck. What's the best time to really engage in that conversation with you, Gail?
It's a good question because I work with people who've been at various stages. So maybe the very ideal is that they contact me when they want to start writing a book. However, look, life isn't ideal, is it? A lot of people have already started. A couple of the people that I mentioned who'd been trying to write for 10 or 20 years. They had started, but they just couldn't get beyond either the first chapter, or they just kept going over and over and over the same material. So anytime really. I even worked with a lady who'd pretty much written the whole book, but she was desperately unhappy with it. And yeah, she wasn't going to put it out to the world in that form. So we started working together, and we used some of what she wrote, but a lot of it needed to be rewritten. So some of it was starting from scratch. So it doesn't really matter whether people have not started at all, whether they're partway through. It's always a good time to have a chat if they're feeling that they need support.
Amazing. So as the expert and someone is thinking about writing and publishing their book, would you give us a couple pro tips from yourself for our amazing audience to walk away with and say, wow, this was really valuable conversation I've just heard on Women Thrive podcast, and it really spurred me on to start writing my book?
Sure. One of my strategies is just 5 words: get it all down first. And then I follow that up with, you don't have a book until you have a book. So what I mean by that is write without letting your thinking brain interfere too much with what you're writing, without letting your perfectionist side get in the way. So every writer, whether it's Raimonda Jan, whether it's Gail Tagarro, whether it's Stephen King, they all have to get their book written first, and it's going to be pretty rough. The first draft is going to be pretty rough. But at the end of it, you're going to have a first draft. You're going to have a fully written book. So get it all down first is one of the main things that I say to all my clients. And it sounds really simple, but it is so effective. It really works. Yeah.
It's just powerful to just start somewhere. It does not have to be perfect. I always say to our clients as well that write books with us, I say, look, just write. The first draft is for you. It's not for the world. You can go through your healing journey within it. You can tell the truth, and you don't have to really censor it at the first stage, because sometimes there are things that we want to talk about or write about that's really on our hearts, especially when you're writing the first draft, but you're being held back because you feel like, oh, somebody's going to judge me, or how do other people going to feel? All of that can get edited out. Just write, and then you see what you have, whether you want to edit it out or not, it's a process. And just remember that it will always be a process, but you have to be willing to walk it in order to get to the other side.
That's right. Yes. It's very much a combination of allowing the creative flow to happen, and then letting in the more critical side to polish it. But if you don't allow that creative side of your brain to first get it down, and it's always being interfered with by those perfectionist tendencies, then it never gets finished. It never gets written. So yeah, it is important.
Gail, this has been a great conversation. I hope this helps some of our aspiring authors to go on and write their books. What would be your pep talk for someone who is on that edge and thinking, oh, this feels a bit of out of my comfort zone, but I really want to become a published author?
Taking the leap is always scary, but I love the words of Rumi, and I think they can be applied to writing a book just as they can be applied to many areas of our lives. And that is, as you start to walk on the way appears. When you take that first step, everything begins to fall into place. And so if you're wanting to write a book, it's more than just wanting. It's having a burning passion and a burning desire to write a book. Because so many people say, I want to, or I'm interested in writing a book. But when you're really ready, you have a burning passion to share your story or your knowledge, you're really ready to take the plunge, you're committed, and you're ready to seek. You acknowledge that you need that support and you're ready to seek it. So my advice is just reach out, let's have a chat and see where it goes.
Amazing. I love that. One more time, to connect with Gail, you can visit bookwritingcoach.com.au, and that's the best place to find Gail. Or you or any other social media channel where people can connect with you also?
Sure. I'm on Instagram and it's simply Book Writing Coach. And I'm on LinkedIn and they'll find me as Gail Tagarro, Tagarro, the Book Writing Coach on LinkedIn.
Amazing. So the Book Writing Coach, Gail Tagarro, is where you find Gail on most of the social media platforms. Of course, we have included all the information in the show notes, so you can tap in, grab the links, get yourself that free gift that Gail was talking about that you can find on her website. And look, there's no magic bullets to becoming a published author. You got to go through it. But the best way to go through it is if you have the support, accountability, and guidance from someone who's been there and done that. So for me, I think if you really want to get to that final result, reach out to the experts who know it a little bit better and lean on their support. There is so much support out there for you. Gail, thank you so much for this great conversation. I'm really looking forward to actually having you on our Women Thrive Summit in March, which you're going to be one of our speakers.
Thank you, Raimonda. Yes, I've really enjoyed talking to you today. And yes, I'm really looking forward to speaking at the summit next year as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Gail. And thanks to all of you for listening. Make sure you tap into all those links in the show notes. And if you have enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it to your social media followers. We look forward to seeing you on another episode, and take care for now. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to Women Thrive podcast. If you found today's episode empowering and inspiring, be sure to subscribe and follow us. Better yet, leave a review and share it with others. We're committed to bringing you more stories that will empower and inspire you on your own journey. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep pursuing your dreams.